Welcome to Chapter 3. This is more on planning and program design. So after our needs assessment and we have identified needs and gaps in services, we begin planning for our program. These are some of the questions we must ask during the planning process. Developing a program or a whole agency takes a lot of planning, and this chapter is going to go into a great detail about how to plan for the development of your program. It is a slightly dry read, so what I would recommend that you do is think about the program that you want to develop for this class when you're listening to the lecture video and when you're reading the chapter, and think about which strategies will be most helpful for you in planning your program. There are different types of planning. The first one that we're going to talk about is strategic planning. There are some that are not going to be included on the lecture video, but they are in the textbook. So strategic planning addresses complex and dynamic environmental conditions by outlining the overall direction of the organization. This slide lists some elements of a strategic plan. Strategic planning can be a useful tool for thinking and managing. The environmental conditions outlined in the previous chapter clearly require strategic thinking and acting by any human services agency. So when we are planning for political, social, and other environmental changes, strategic planning can help us to work through those difficulties. Also, if the organization is in the middle of a crisis, like maybe there's a huge funding cut, the strategic planning can help to mitigate, those difficulties. There are 11 stages identified for strategic planning. The first one, we must have competent leadership. There must be support from key decision makers. Identify organization mandates. So like we talked about in the last chapter, there will always be rules we have to follow. There's going to be laws and regulations. And so we need to know what those are. It discusses in the book informal mandates. And this says that we should ask our key decision makers what their expectations are of the organization and its role. So an organization, is made up of people who are going to put this plan or vision into action. And so the individual people that are part of this plan are going to have their own idea of how things are supposed to go and what they're supposed to do. And those are sort of the informal mandates, and we want to kind of have all that out in the open so we know what to expect moving forward. So we need to understand from the stakeholders' perspective their needs and concerns. We want to have a clear vision, mission, and values statements. So why do we exist? What do we want the organization to be? And so again, our organization is made up of a group of people, and individually each person has their own sort of vision and values, and we want to tap into that and kind of allow people's drive and passion to kind of fuel the organization's vision, mission, and values, and we want to make sure they're all on the same page. External environment, right? So we this is sort of like what we talked about with some of the political and cultural things. We want to assess the external environment and how it will impact the development of our organization. We also want to assess the organization's internal environment to just determine strengths and weaknesses. So, again, right, our organization is going to be made up of multiple individuals working hopefully together to make this plan into place. So we want to look at, if it's an organization that's already running, let's look at current staff, their knowledge and skills. Are they properly trained? Are they following policies and procedures, etc.? We also want to identify strategic issues facing the organization. So, sorry, my cat. The organization's culture is harder to assess, but we can do employee attitude surveys to see if everything's on the same page. We want to evaluate our programs to see if they are doing what we intended for them to do. So we want to look at their strengths, weaknesses, are there any opportunities there, and threats to program fidelity. So is the program operating in a way that we want it to? Are we getting the desired outcomes? Are people getting better, etc.? Formulate strategies to manage these issues. So if there are issues, right, we want to have a plan in place for how are we going to solve those problems. One area that I can think of in particular is when I was working for a community service board in Virginia, and there was a long time between assessment or initiation of services and actually like the starting of services. So after the assessment and then like therapy or group or whatever they were referred to, and it was done on a higher level, like the state level, and we created what they called same-day access, so individuals could come in for an assessment and get a lot of the services in that first day and have appointments soon after, within a week after that. So there's a 5-step process to this, how are we going to deal with these problems? How are we going to fix things? So it's very similar to like a treatment plan that we write, in terms of you sort of like your organization has like its higher level of goals, and then you sort of have like your objectives. So we have our big kind of long-term goals. Our goal is to help people. Our objectives are what are the things that we are going to do to help the people. Then our action plan, or even the smaller steps beyond that, and how are we going to all the way down right to the little level on how we're going to help, right, make sure that everything is flowing like we want it to. We will review and adopt the plan, develop an implementation process. And so it's kind of, this part to me is funny because people struggle with change, and so whenever you are creating a change for people, there are often those that are very reluctant to adopt the change. And so they have a process that they recommend where you find the people who are in favor of and interested in the change. And so you have them kind of become the champions and the voice of this change. And so, and with the hope that it will spread, right, to the other people. You want to monitor and update the plan on a regular basis to make sure that you are in line with your mission statement and stay in line with the mission statement. Selection of goals. So again, this is very similar to the like the treatment plan goals. The long term, the big goals don't have to be measurable, but they give us a direction. And then we have like our strategies, how we are going to like see the goal, right, come to life. Like we're going to think of like the individual programs and the so you have the goal of like, I am going to help people with substance use. Well, how are we going to do that, right? Are we going to use the matrix model and do groups? Are we going to have individual therapy? Are they going to have peer services, right? And so we're looking at like all of the different ways that we might be able to help people with our overarching goal, right? What are going to be the things that we actually do? And so the objectives need to be specific and measurable. You have process objectives, and those are like, we are going to provide group, we are going to provide medication-assisted treatment, and the outcome refers to the expected impact of the program. So it's, the outcome goal would be we are going to serve maybe this many of people, or we are help so many people get clean, kind of like that. Management by objectives. A way of managing the efforts of people is, we're ensuring their active involvement in the planning process. And we want people to understand that they have a part in helping make the objectives and the goal. They are a part of the plan. They are a key part of the process. It helps with buy-in and to keep the goal right in line. Identifying and selecting alternatives. So you have evidence-based practices, and so I mentioned the matrix model. That is an evidence-based practice. Evidence-based programming is done at the like organizational level. So trauma-informed is a organizational level program where every individual at the agency has been trained in trauma-informed. There are for example, representation of all different groups on posters on the wall or in brochures. People are called by their preferred names. Like that's a big program. And then like cognitive trauma-focused CBT, for example, is a evidence-based practice. So in order to identify, right, that we're meeting the goals, like benchmarking is a system that compares our practices to others doing similar things, but they are doing it better. So our goal is to, right, raise our bar to that. Evidence-based practice is the integration of the best research evidence. So we are taking research and saying this is proven to be a good program and we are going to use this. There's 5 steps for evidence-based practice. We have questioning, searching. So we are going to like, what's our population? What's the desired outcome? We're going to do our research. We summarize the findings, review how that information can help our program, and then apply it. The logic model provides detail on all elements that will be necessary to fully implement a program as designed. And these are the elements of the logic model. You have your inputs, your raw materials and resources. These are your clients, your staff, your facilities, your equipment. Throughputs, how the client's condition is intended to change. And then the outputs are the units of services provided or completed. You have intermediate outcomes, changes in the client condition at service completion. And then final or ultimate outcomes is the actual changes in the client's quality of life, and we're focusing on the future. So if you had somebody and your goal was, we'll say, to increase communication skills, improve relationships might be the big goal. And so in order to do that, maybe we're going to work on communication skills. And then, so the big outcome is, right, improved relationships. And then the intermediate outcome, right, maybe they completed a group where they worked on different types of communication skills, relationship, right, skills and different things. Developing an implementation plan. So you designate members of the planning team. And again, this is part of like if you have your champions or your cheerleaders that are like, you know, have them be a big part of the implementation and hopefully bring the other people on board. You also, on that last slide, want to know like what resources do we need and what's a realistic timeline. We want to focus on the program objectives. So, you know, we have our timeline of what we want to get done. These are our resources. These are our objectives. And we want to evaluate, are we doing what we said we're going to do or what we intended on doing? And the last two slides are on marketing. So we want people to know where we are and what we do so that we can help them. So these two slides just talk about some of the different aspects of marketing. So I know that was a kind of a lot in a boring chapter, but I appreciate you guys sticking with me, and I will see you for a different video. Bye.